Hey Hada, why am I glowing? Also, what's happening in Melee? It's great to have you back on. This is our third iteration. This is take number 3. Well, take number 6. It doesn't matter. It's so cool to have you back on again. How's it going?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. I'm growing the beard out, so if you guys want to do me a favor and just do like a beard graph throughout all of our episodes, I'd love to see the progress. I really haven't been keeping too much, but I think I'm gonna do some maintenance at some point soon. But I'm definitely looking to bush it out a little bit. But anyway, yeah, there's a snowstorm going on. That's all right. Set up my cat tree so breakfast now can chill over there. So that's cool. Working, playing volleyball, and we got some pretty cool news this week. We had God of the Mod again come back. I actually love shelling some light out to the P plus community. So Sosa versus Lucky. Yes, you are correct. That is Lucky Aldama, Joseph Aldama, the Fox main from SoCal, aka Mango's friend. Game 9 set against Sosa. Actually, SoCal rivals in the PM scene, so 3.6 scene. And I'm not going to spoil it quite yet. You're just going to have to catch out, and we're supposed to talk about that in the rest of the episode. But also, we have Moky's video, which shook the Twitter, shook up the Twitterverse today recently. Which is Melee dying, and I feel like we talk about that every few months, but we'll get to that, of course. And finally, the creme de la creme, Smash World Tour 2022, announcing a lot of crucial information, and of course, big tournaments popping up left, right, and center throughout this course of this week, being like, hey, we're partnering with Smash World Tour. Hey, we're partnering with Smash World Tour. We're a platinum event. We're a gold event. We're a silver event. Here's why you should come to blank city and play some Smash. And I'm like, I'm about it, man. Let's get after it. So what do you think? What should we tackle first?
Let's start off with this is a great lead-in because Moky making a video about is Melee dying less than 24 hours to the announcement of Smash World Tour 2022. Now, of course, I have to guess he might have slipped his notice that there was going to be a big announcement the same day that this video comes out, because they announced it, I want to say, over the weekend. Hey, you should tune into VGBC Bootcamp and check out the announcement that we have for Smash World Tour 2022. By the way, I just want to say I wore my this is from 2020, the dead year. I got this
That's
shirt.
a relic. Someone's gonna buy that from you for like $300 one day.
No, they won't,
This is
because
Smash
I've worn
World
it a
Tour that
bunch.
never happened.
The Smash World Tour that never happened. It is a
Yep.
piece of history. Well, anyway, this video that Moky made where he's talking about overall, in his mind, there's not enough storylines happening in Melee right now. He doesn't like how a lot of Smash Melee players in particular have the whole idea of sub-goaling for tournaments. He doesn't like how a lot of players are avoiding playing in any event online because of the lack of rankings, and he doesn't like the fact that we're doing lack of online consideration results to the rankings for PG stats. He says, why not do the blur rank instead? We should just adopt that as our ranking, which I don't know how serious he was with that take, but these are all points that Moky's making. And of course, I will say this to start off. I don't want to make this sound like I want to pick apart everything he has to say. I like a lot of what Moky has to say, and I respect him as a player. Let's just get that out of the way. That being said, I think the thing that I want to pick apart the most is just the disconnect of, about 4 hours later, Smash World Tour announces all of these events that, assuming the pandemic continues to subside in terms of more people being vaccinated, boosted, and then the newest patches of the vaccination rolling out in the future, that we're going to be able to have all these events happening, right? Of course, Moky could be right. Maybe they'll all go by the wayside, but that part to me is probably the funniest. What was your impressions of the video, Hada?
Being a part of the competitive scene for the last 7, 8, 9 years, however long I've been playing Melee, I've seen many of these conversations come and go. Whether that be, oh my god, HBox is killing Melee, like Jigglypuff mains are gonna rule the world, or no one can beat Armada, so what's the point of even trying, or the pandemic rolled around, delay-based netcode sucks, we're never going to be able to play Melee again, no one's going to want to play Melee again. Oh, now that we have online and online's good, now we're having through the problem of top players don't want to play. So the upper high level players don't want to play because they can't get top 10, top 15, top 30 wins. And if they don't want to play, what's the point of even competing for ranking and competing to get like that high notoriety so we can get those sponsorships so we can keep doing this as a career and keep making this a livable atmosphere. And I think there is a lot of credit to that main point that Moky was making is it's really silly, and it also goes back to a huge ranking debacle that we've had for a long time is, do locals count? Do weeklies count? Do online tournaments count? And because it has a lot of variability, it has a lot of unforeseen factors that can go into play. Whereas if you're a top 10, top 15 level player, your losses count 100 times more than your wins do at those events. When you're seeded to win that event, if you're an IBDW signing up for Training Mode Tuesday or Training Mode tournaments, and you're the top 3 player in the world, and everyone just wants a Cody win, and you're seeded to win it. So if you win the event, you met the goal. You don't really get any props for it per se. Yeah, you get a little bit of cash along the way by the way of FlyQuest, but you're not necessarily going super high up in the rankings ladder. It's like, oh, when we're deciding whether Cody goes above Zayn or Zayn goes above Cody in the top 3 rankings this upcoming year, no one's going to care that he won Training Mode Tuesday number 39.
But will
No
they
one's going
care
to.
that he lost training mode Tuesday 39 too? That's what I want to know when they compare him to Zayn. Like, why does that
That's the
matter?
difference maker.
Right.
Exactly. That's the difference maker in the previous cases of those upper echelons of ranking. It's like a huge proponent of this was Zamu. Zamu, when he got ranked, 45th or 35th or something in the last official top 100 rank, yeah, he won a tournament in Europe, double eliminating Traphasia and beating Prof, Frenzy, Levingly, and a bunch of other sick players to double eliminate one of the top 10 players in the world at the time to win a tournament from an American moving over to European soil. But
Yeah.
then it's like, oh, he lost to Faust, he lost to Travioli, he lost to Blend Tech or whatever at a weekly. And they're like, yeah, well, what's the point of giving Zamu such a high ranking if he's just going to lose to Joe Schmo, whoever? But that's because Zamu went to all those locals. Zamu went to all those little regionals, those little monthlies. And so he put himself at the vulnerability to get upset. But it also shows to the factor of he has those high peaks, but he has those low valleys, but those low valleys mean a lot more. And it really dissuades those super high level players to put themselves out there to actually go to those lower tiered events. Cause like, okay, well, if I win, I get $23 and I can go to IHOP and get a stack of pancakes. But if I lose, I'm not going to be top 100. Like if you're one of those like super powerful regional players that's trying to make that top 100 list for the first time, it's like, oh yeah, you have a win over Bladewise, you have a win over Far, you have a win over Eddie Mexico, but then you lost to Punani Slayer 69 at Greenwood Village local number 247. I don't think a top 100 level player will lose to someone like that. It's like that's a huge deal, you know what I mean? So it's like we need to stop punishing players for going to these lower tiered events because that's what holds up the scene and that's what encourages players to go to the higher tiered, higher quality events that actually have a lot of say in the matter when it comes to the ranking season. Let's reward the top level players that go and support the scene and not punish them for losing to napkins once. That's Axe. Like Axe had losses to Ty, Taj, Meds, and Napkins, but he was still, top 10 in the world, and people were making that as a conversation of why he shouldn't have been top 10 in the world, even though he was getting top 3s at majors left, right, and center. So it's a silly conversation, and I think IBDW coming out on Twitter and being like, dude, I'm going to start entering 3-4 tournaments a week. And I encourage everyone else to do so. And I think Moky made a good point. It's like he himself, especially because he couldn't go to those in-person majors, that it really wasn't in his best interest to only lose to some Joe Schmoes on the online era because then everyone's going to think he's super washed and not going to take him seriously.
Yeah, so with the Moky message being also that sub-goaling tournaments is tough on the community because top players should be able to afford either through their sponsor or because of their normal streaming revenue, this, that, or the third, that traveling to tournaments should already be possible. I don't know anybody's finances in the top player echelon, but to me, what I think of when I hear Moky say something like that, it probably has come from a few different places where he's observed somebody sub goal and either decide not to go, or they make an exuberantly high number, and he says that's just taking advantage of the community who follows you and puts pressure on the community to drop money at the drop of a hat. So what I would like to say with that is I think that when you get to a high enough spot and you have a high enough tiered sponsor and not a friend of yours who has a 10 follower esports org account on Twitter, like it needs to be respectable. It needs to be a higher tier org. Once you get to that spot, I feel like your obligation, especially if you're full-time Smash, is to try to get to as many of these tournaments as possible. That being said, I also understand that is an easy or a relatively easy cash grab. Not to try to give it a title like that without being. I just don't want to be super mean, but I think that it's a two-faced thing. I'll just put it that way. I want players to feel like, oh, I can't afford to go, so I'm not going to go. I want them to feel like they can go and that they have an option, which is I will do what I can through my content, and then people who want to sub goal with me or to donate goal with me, they'll give of their own volition extra income, not forcing it. But that's just what happens sometimes. Somebody will jokingly say in Twitch chat, that was my entire paycheck, LOL, and be like, what? No, don't. What? Not that happens all the time, but right. I like the fact that Moky comes out with this video though. Overall, even if it is part of the same discourse that you've had to live through over and over again, Hada, I've only had to see this conversation like 20 times. You've seen it 100 times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely a really interesting spot to be put into. It just feels like I bounced in the Mango stream like 15 minutes ago before we started recording, and someone asked in the chat, "Mango, is Melee dying?" He's like, "No, it's just in hibernation." And I'm like, dude, that's so right. Because we are just a sleeping bear of a community. We go through our positions in our life cycle where we have to go to sleep, where we have to get some rest, and we can't just crank out super major after super major every other month. Like that's just not feasible, and especially during the pandemic where we have to be very careful with scheduling, finding a venue, then of course making sure we can maintain it in a very safe environment. And that really leads us into our new huge development in Smash World Tour, popping up just around the corner here, and seeing tournaments like Fate over in the UK get announced. So I have a cousin, one of my best friends in the entire world, actually lives in England. So I'm gonna be like, hey, can I sleep on your couch and maybe go tour the country a little bit, and then also go to a tournament? So might be my opportunity to go and see some family. So that'll be really fun. So I'm gonna have to go ahead and check dates and flights and all that good stuff. But would love to go to my first European tournament. But Cypher, Jesse, what do you think about this development? And do you think we're a little early? Do you think we're trying to push the envelope a little too much, or do you think how successful do you think we're gonna be with this new Smash World Tour 2022?
I have to assume that we're operating off of the assumption, which seems to be what VGBC is operating off of. We're going to be just fine with all things pandemic. None of this is going to get derailed like it was in 2020 or 2021. That seems a little extreme, but if we operate under that, then of course this is going to go well. And no one's going to be talking about Melee or Ultimate dying 6 months from now after we've had, by then, a lot of really classic tournaments come through. Stuff like Pound, stuff like Gommel, and then SmashCon is in August, so that's roughly 6-ish months from now. Close enough. So we'll all be saying, wow, this is great. It's finally the summer of Smash. It's finally something that feels closer to normal. So then the question, of course, the one that is worth debating is, why would you assume all of this to happen, VGBC? How irresponsible on a scale of 1 to 10 is it for them to say, we are just going to blaze forward and hope for the best? I would say the other option is allowing things to sort of just fade away and die off. Not to be super doomy about it, but I think you either go for it and you try to do the best you can with what you have while respecting COVID guidelines, wearing masks, being vaccinated, all that good stuff. You could just try to do all of that at the same time. The world in a lot of different ways has moved on in some capacity from the pandemic, not entirely, but I think that there's a certain point where Melee and Smash has to jump off as well. I don't like saying to anybody, you have to go to these tournaments, you have to do this. Anyone who doesn't feel safe doing it still, that is their decision to make. I guess VGBC is just playing the other side of that card where they're saying things are starting to clear up in terms of guidelines and everything, so we can start running these events again. So we are going to go do that. I think that if we could always be united on things, that would just be a fallacy, because Melee and Smash Ultimate, the entire Smash community, can hardly ever come to a very common denominator decision. But hopefully what we'll see from all of this is exemplary, safe, guideline following people showing up to these events and having a good time at the same instance.
Yeah, it's definitely from someone who's used to do a lot of traveling when it came to tournaments. It's a bright light in the things that are to come to me. Yeah, I want to go to SmashCon. I'd love to go to Double Down. I'd love to go to, Fate. I would love to go to a European event. Whether or not I have that much vacation time by then, we'll have to see. But it looks like a great bit of potential. And again, we have to make sure we're staying health conscious. We have to make sure we're keeping the community safe. If it's looking a little risky, I don't want people to immediately push the envelope. If we're seeing a regression, we can't immediately be crazy about, canceling events, rescheduling events. Of course, we've already rescheduled 2 events as of right now, as when it comes to 2022 majors, big regionals. And I think that it really opens the door to a lot of other TOs, and especially TOs who have manifested themselves throughout the Slippy era, to kind of dip their toes and maybe run a silver event, because it's divided into silver, gold, and platinum events based on amount of attendees, notoriety, and sponsorship value.
Yep.
So you could see TOs like the people from Galint Gaming, or the people from the Salt Mine, or the people from Rona Rumble, the big ones, stuff like that. Maybe dip their toes in and start to run a big regional, and maybe run a little silver event. Maybe Colorado runs an all chat sponsored silver Smash World Tour event.
All
Maybe the
right.
Galint team runs it's a tournament out of Canada. Who knows? I've just thinking about the amazing TOs I've worked with throughout the course of the online era. Thinking of people like Jade, people like Nathan Sandwich, and of course Slum, MDJ, Brandon, of course. There's lots of amazing, and of course Deer at Galint Gaming. All these people have put in so much work on to keep the Melee scene together through the online era. I could only imagine the amount of crazy potential they have if they were to run and put their heads together for a big in-person event. So if they're behind the TO staff, that I'm definitely going to be seriously considering making the trip out for an event like that.
It's so mean, because we all assume that people like Homemade Waffles and Deer are specifically only rollback netcode era TOs when they've been doing it before the pandemic started. I feel so bad. So I was seeing the Battle of BC4 announcement, which is through Gallant Gaming. Shout outs to Deer.
Oh yeah,
and
right. Let's go, Deer.
And Leffen is making a Twitter post about something else, and then I see Deer in Leffen's mention saying, hey, remember this picture? Hey, remember Battle BC4? Maybe you want to come out to Battle of BC4. Deer's doing that thing that you got to do as a TO. You got to shout out at the people, and it's a picture of Deer from like it's 5-ish years ago for Battle of BC3, and it's him and Leffen holding a big old check for first place. Just like, what? Of course you were doing events before the pandemic. How could that be so silly? You were doing it before the pandemic. But I'm really looking forward to seeing, like you said, Brandon, aka Homemade Waffles, is already doing an in-person event. Deer with his big regional over in Vancouver with Battle BC4. And then, I want to see something from I think NorCal is where Jade is. Yeah, they're in NorCal. So
that Jade and Nathan Sandwich and all those homies.
I guess Genesis would be their big project right now, but maybe we get to see something that's because Sheridan and Bobak are the classical people you think of as being behind Genesis. Jade and Nathan Sandwich are helping out with that tournament, and that's really, really cool. But yeah, I want to see where, I guess Bay Area Rumble is what Nathan Sandwich is really trying to push.
Yeah.
So shout outs to Bay Area Rumble.
Yep. I know that should be coming up in the next couple weeks if I remember correctly. But
I believe so.
yeah, I know that Trey, the Trash Man, aka All Chat Esports Trey, the Trash Man, gonna be commentating that event.
Congrats.
Also putting in a lot of work for that, and then All Chat is helping out with the pop bonus for that tournament. So should be a really exciting thing and a cool little way that All Chat can slip in some West Coast events. Of course, we have our crazy sponsored players in JFlex and BBats over on the East Coast, rocking it, getting those top 8 placings, doing the Lord's work, and it really just now leans on the Colorado team from All Chat, myself, and Slum to start pulling our weight around here. But at least getting those Twitter mentions going. I know we're doing some work whenever we can, but I'm really excited to see all these developments. Would love to travel more, and yeah, man, this is just a really exciting time for Melee. It feels like we're getting back to normal.
And then lastly, we want to talk about P Plus a little bit, and shout outs to Sosa and Lucky for putting on a really great show with God of the Mod. I personally haven't gotten a chance to see the set yet, but I guess the one thing that came out of this between last week when the Doctor won second consecutive week and is now in the top 8 that Mango wants to form in the future, once there's enough double in a row, 2 times in a row winners of God of the Mod, it forms a top 8. And then they were talking about doing it in person. How cool would it be to do a big old invitational style thing where it's God of the Mod winners, so people like the Doctor and spoiler, redacted, all the players that will eventually be? What if that did happen in person? I think that's nothing but good things, of course, but I guess the question to you more or less is, you were the one who saw the set. You can either spoiler it or you can keep it spoiler free, but you would be able to talk more about how this continues to help P Plus, because of course it's obvious, but I guess one thing it would be, if you watch a little bit more of Mango stream than I do, which you do, where did Mango, like, he plays P Plus with Magi for a month or so, and then all of a sudden is doing God of the Mod? How did this even happen? I just need to talk to Saber at some point, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, Saber also doing the Lord's work with marketing and pushing P Plus as a whole, but Mango has never been shy to say that he does like P Plus. You know, he went to what was it, one of the BAMs, which is the Australian nationals back in the day, and he made a pretty deep PM 3.6 run, and constantly says how big of a fan he is of Switch, who is the quote unquote Mango of P Plus. He's a wolf main. He's just swag is all hell, just so technical, so fast, so creative. And of course his best friend, Lucky, was ranked 1 in SoCal for PM 3.6 over Sosa. The only person to ever be ranked over Sosa in PMP plus ever in SoCal. So Joey and Sosa went back and forth for many years. 1 year, Joey getting the better of him. And there was some beef going into the set, so Lucky managed to weasel his way in, and everyone thought Sosa was going to wash him. But first 2 games looked really dominant by the way of the Wario man, but all of a sudden that melee technical fox, that patented, Lucky Joey explosiveness, managed to make it a really, really close set. And I think Joey actually 3-stocked in one game. Looked like an absolute monster with the runaway style fox, because anything about P plus, any one character can touch a death you at any time. Just a crazy punish game in that. And in that game specifically. But yeah, game 9. I'm not going to spoil the ending, but I will let you know it goes the distance. It was
Game 9.
an absolute wild ride. And guys, please go support God of the Mod. Support the P plus community. There is development for rollback for P plus currently going right now. So don't know how far into the development they are, but I did see a Twitter clip of a working like alpha version, and apparently it works. Like the concept and the bones are there, they just have to fill it all out.
Yep.
So super exciting to see how the P plus community is developing on that. And yeah, man, so support Mango, support Magi, support Saber, support all the the P plus development, and who knows, maybe we'll see Mango flying out 8 amazing P plus players to his house and hosting a little Mango's House Summit Invitational for P plus.
That'd be so cool to see. I also feel like there's just a teeny little tiny bit of Mango that loves the fact that it's P plus, screw you Nintendo kind of a thing. That'd be awesome. So, the last little interesting part of Smash World Tour, just to circle back to that one more time, is that events like Genesis are not going to be part of Smash World Tour. Does that matter to you at all? Because I feel like the answer is no. There's just too much happening to be excited about with in-person events. Who cares if the Big House 10, if that's not on Smash World Tour, who cares? Because the Big House 10 will not be part of Smash World Tour. I feel like that doesn't really matter.
I think it also gives a lot more benefit to not like the quote unquote Super Bowls of Smash. So you think of Big House, you think of Genesis, you think of Shine, you think of Smash Con, you think of got Evo back like when that was a thing, those mainstay events that were there every year and drew every single, like if you saw the top 30, 29 of those players were there. Like that's how incredibly important it was to make a splash at that event. And I think that having those not a part of the Smash World Tour and having Smash World Tour finals be a quote unquote Super Bowl style event for Smash, it makes those qualifier events just as important so you can get to that big dance. You know what I mean? Like you're going through like this sort of like playoff season, like accumulating these Smash World Tour points, getting enough placements, hitting that top 30 margin so you can make it to that championship Sunday, to those championship weekend. That's when it all comes to a head. And that's when we really get to see who some of the best players throughout the year will show their stuff. So I'm excited for the format. It has a lot of potential. And I'm really excited to see what VGBC does with it.
All right, so that is it for us for this week of what's happening in Melee. Come on, Hada, tell us. I really appreciate you coming on for a third week. I think we're making this work pretty well, and I'm excited to see what happens in the next week. Whenever these announcements come out, we have to jump on it pretty hard, I feel like, but you've been very flexible, so I appreciate it, and thanks for coming on for another week.
Hey, I really enjoy it every single time. I like putting out a good product, and he's very easy to work with. So, and I love talking about Smash, man. It's literally my job, my side hustle, I guess. Not my full time.
It's
job.
literally your side hustle. Let's go. Yep.
If one day I can make commentary and content creation a full time job, that'd be cool. But not crossing my fingers on it yet. But who knows? Maybe in the future.
Well, I mean,
guys,
look, there's all these kinds of events that we got to get out to. You see Wisely hustling out there on Twitter, Wisely with the nice graphics of, hey, these are the events I've commentated. This is the highest level of the tournament that I've commentated for these games. And I'm just like, what? That's cool. Can you make a graphic like that of these are the coolest and the not coolest people that I've interviewed for the podcast? Everybody's been cool, by the way. Settle down. It's all good.
Yeah, I might have to go and check that graphic out and maybe make something like that for myself. Or I'm gonna I'll chat about that and they can make the graphic for me. But anyway, respect to Wisely, man. Love the hustle. Yeah, might be tossing my hat in the ring for some Fate commentary. Again, that's if there's an event that I go to that's huge, I want to go to Fate. I think that'd be sweet.
Mm-hmm.
Would love to go to a European tournament, and it's in my cousin's back door, and I've been meaning to go visit her. So yeah, might go. You might see me on a European stream at some point this year. But
let's go. That'd be cool.
I always love coming out for the pod. You can find me at my Hey Hada stuff. So it's Hey Hada on Twitch and Twitter. I stream and playing a lot of doubles with Trey and the All Chat Boys recently. So that's a good time. Released a combo video recently. League. Check it out on the YouTube and follow me on Twitter, guys. Please, Twitter numbers. That'd be great.
Twitter numbers. Thank you for joining us.